One of the most important aspects of a character is their occupation, and today I'm going to teach you how to decide on what your characters should be doing for a living. What's up, guys? My name is Brandon McNulty. I'm a writer, I'm the author of Bad Parts, and welcome to my writing channel. Today we're going to talk about a very important subject, and it's assigning occupations to your characters. This is something that a lot of writers will take for granted. They'll say to themselves, well, it doesn't really matter what this character does for a living. I mean, they serve some other function in the story, so occupation, who cares? So I'll just make them a dentist or a baker or a librarian, or it really doesn't matter. But it does. And today I'm going to give you some tips on how to decide on giving your characters the right occupations. So I have two tips for you today, and the first of these two tips is that your character occupations should factor into the plot. And this is going to be critically important for certain types of stories, especially for certain types of genres. For instance, if you're writing a murder mystery, one of your main characters better be a detective. And if you're writing a medical thriller, you should have doctors in the story. And if you're writing a legal thriller, you should have lawyers, and so on and so on. But not all genres dictate that certain occupations need to be present. And yet, at the same time, it helps if you think about what your story will involve over the course of the plot. If you know, for instance, that one of your main characters is going to get brutally beaten at some point in the story, you might want to think about making one of your main characters a doctor who can eventually take care of him. Another thing to consider is that if you have certain plot events, like maybe you have like a married couple that will eventually get a divorce midway through the story, you're going to start thinking about lawyers who can factor into the story. So always look into the future. What is your plot going to involve? What kind of scenarios are going to come up? And are there certain professionals that need to be involved? Now, my second tip is that your character occupations should have some kind of thematic purpose within the story. We just talked about plot purpose and, factoring into the plot, and that's strictly on the plot level, the literal level of the story. But when we talk about thematic purpose, we're talking about deeper things. Maybe we're talking about something related to the character arc, or maybe we're talking about the overall message of the story. And you can have characters who they have occupations that don't necessarily have any impact on the plot, but they do have some kind of deeper meaning, or they do impact the story in a way that connects with the reader on a more subtle level. So let me give you an example of this. If you've ever seen The Walking Dead, you know it's a post-apocalyptic story, the zombie apocalypse. People are trying to survive in this world, and there are no jobs, there are no occupations. Nobody's worried about their 9 to 5. They're just worried about surviving to the next day. Now, the main character in this series, whether you're reading the comics or you're watching the TV show, the main character is Rick Grimes. And in this world of The Walking Dead, occupations, as I mentioned, they don't play a factor anymore. But we do care about what these characters did prior to the apocalypse. Now, in the case of the main character, Rick Grimes, he was a small town cop. What does that have to do with anything? Does it necessarily impact the plot? No, but it does impact the theme of the story, because The Walking Dead is all about this chaotic world and these characters who try to bring order to this chaotic world. And who better to bring order to a chaotic world than someone who worked as a small town cop, someone who made a living off of keeping order in a town. Now, you can also have character occupations that fulfill both the plot function and the thematic function. For instance, take a look at Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. This is a character who works as a paleontologist. He studies dinosaurs for a living, and that obviously fulfills the plot function, because who better to take the first tour of a dinosaur theme park than a paleontologist? Makes sense. Now, also, his occupation works on a thematic level. When we first meet Alan Grant, we learn that he is someone who is cynical of new things. He's cynical of technology. He's cynical of young children. He's cynical of anything new, really. So on a thematic level, especially with his character arc, that paleontologist job fits him very well. It's a job that requires him to spend most of his time with ancient lizards, and as a result, spends very little time with new technology and new people. So over the course of the story, he has to come to grips with himself. He has to realize that there is value in children and technology in order for him to survive Jurassic Park. So when you're deciding what occupations your characters should have, always try to check off both boxes. Try to hit on the plot and the thematic functions. If you can hit both, you'll get the most out of your story. One final tip I want to throw out there is that when you are introducing your characters, you want to introduce them in a scene that shows them doing their job, whatever that job is. And this is important because human beings, whether in real life or in fiction, are often defined by what they do for a living. So if you can introduce your characters by showing them doing what they do best, that is bonus points right at the start of your story. So I hope this helps. Question of the day: what is your character's main occupation? Does it serve a plot function, and does it serve a thematic function? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for me. Share this video with a friend. Pick up a copy of Bad Parts if you haven't already. And as always, remember to keep on writing.